Did German pirates reach America 2 decades before Columbus? Historic maps hold some tantalizing clues regarding this claim, and the story is even celebrated today on the walls of the Glockenspiel House in Bremen, Germany. The central characters behind this tale are the two renowned 15th century privateers Didrik Pining and his partner in crime Hans Pothorst. To their enemies, they were labelled as infamous terrorists, notorious pirates, and atrocious robbers. But for centuries, their transatlantic voyage was seemingly forgotten. That was until in 1925, a Danish librarian called Sophus Larsen pieced together a trail of clues left behind in royal letters and on contemporary maps. Let's go back to the year 1468, to a not so dissimilar time of trade wars and sea battles. Records documenting the early days of Pining and Pothorst are scarce, but their careers appear intertwined, with both leaving their hometown of Hildesheim to serve the Hanseatic city of Hamburg. Pining was subsequently hired into the service of King Christian I of Denmark, and it was during the Anglo-Hanseatic conflict that erupted in 1468 that the pair gained their notorious reputations as privateers. Their enemies, the English, were of course no slouches themselves when it came to privateering, having raided Danish-held Iceland and murdering the Danish governor there in 1467. In early 1473, the English agreed a truce with the Danes, and it is at this point that our story of discovery begins. It is claimed that King Christian I of Denmark employed Pining and Pothorst to lead an expedition towards Iceland and Greenland, with clear geopolitical interests, to seek out new islands and countries to the north. Knowledge of land beyond Greenland certainly existed in Europe at the time. For example, Adam of Bremen's Descriptio Insularum Aquilonis, written around 1075, mentions Vinland specifically. After reaching Greenland, the Pining-Pothorst expedition supposedly continued west, thus becoming the first Europeans to see North America since the Viking Age. Or so the story goes. Our Danish historians' claim rests largely on 3 compelling lines of evidence. A key document supporting this voyage was discovered in 1909 in the Danish State Archives. It was a letter written in March 1551 by Carsten Grip to King Christian III of Denmark. At the time, Grip had been commissioned by the king to purchase books, maps and the like, to aid the royal court's strategic and scientific interests. In the letter he writes about a new map just published in Paris that mentions the 2 skippers Pining and Pothorst. They had been sent by the king's grandfather, King Christian I, at the request of His Majesty of Portugal, with certain ships to explore new countries and islands in the north. The captains also built a great sea mark on the rock Hvitsarc off the coast of Greenland, apparently as a warning to other ships regarding the dangerous Greenlandic pirates. There's quite a bit of information to unpack here. Firstly, there's the mention of aggressive Greenland pirates. This is perhaps not surprising, as it's reported their folklore included a belief that a ship of vengeance would one day come to kill them off, in retaliation for the collapse of Norse colonies in Greenland. Communications between Europe and the Greenland settlements had broken off around 1408, so Pining's expedition was probably the first contact Greenlanders had had in over half a century. The second interesting point is that this letter provides a valuable chronological clue. As well as seemingly confirming that an expedition of discovery took place, it also must have happened before 1481, the year King Christian I died. The mention too of Hvitsarc ties in with other cartographic evidence and was a common feature on maps of this time. For example, it features on Olaus Magnus's iconic 1539 Carta Marina, with the giant sea mark depicted like a compass off the coast of Greenland. However, the specific map Grip may have been referencing is this 1548 copy of the Iceland section of the Carta Marina by Hieronymus Gourmand. The inscription references a similar origin story for the Hvitsarc sea mark. Whether Hvitsarc was an independent island is debatable. Translated as white shirt, this has led some to presume the name was originally given to a prominent mountain or glacier on the east coast of Greenland. The final interesting clue from the letter is the apparent Portuguese connection, with King Alfonso V of Portugal apparently having backed the expedition. Kings Alfonso and Christian were on good terms during their reigns, based on their correspondence and exchange of gifts like Icelandic falcons and port wine. During much of the 15th century, Portugal had been searching for a route to India around Africa. So financing the exploration of a potential northwest passage with Danish expertise does not seem too improbable. Based on Carsten Grip's letter that Danish and Portuguese royal families were collaborating on this expedition, Larsen speculated that 2 Portuguese sailors had joined Pining and Pothorst. These were Alvaro Martins Homem and João Vaz Corte-Real. An accumulation of circumstantial evidence seems to support their involvement. First, a late 16th century manuscript written by Gaspar Frutuoso credits Corte-Real with finding the Terra de Bacalhau, the land of codfish. Was this the rich fishing grounds off Newfoundland? Curiously enough, Corte-Real was later appointed governor of half of the island of Terceira in the Azores in early 1474. According to Larsen, this was a reward for his discoveries for the Portuguese crown. Further connections potentially linking Corte-Real can be found in contemporary maps. On the world's oldest surviving globe, made in 1492 by Martin Beheim, islands west of Greenland bear a canny resemblance to the islands of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. How could Beheim know of these North American coastlines before even the famous voyage of Columbus had returned? Larsen argues that Corte-Real must have been the anonymous source. Between 1486 and 1490, Beheim actually resided on the same island of Terceira, where Corte-Real was governor. Furthermore, Beheim married a sister of Corte-Real's son-in-law. Opportunity to share state secrets, therefore, certainly existed. Another cartographic clue linking João Vaz Corte-Real to North America is in a later 1576 atlas by Portuguese cartographer Fernão Vaz Dourado. Here, 2 features along the coast of Labrador are directly named after Corte-Real. The final thread tying this expedition together relates to its final participant, the navigator. On the terrestrial globe created by Gemma Frisius in 1536, a westward passage north of Labrador carries the inscription, "The people Quij," to whom the Dane Johannes Scolvus reached about the year 1476. Was Scolvus also part of this expedition led by Pining and Pothorst? According to Larsen, yes. The identity of this enigmatic navigator has courted many theories from historians over the decades, and there is no real agreement about his background or even which country he came from. One historian even proclaimed him to be Columbus himself. Regardless of who he was, the annotation adds further circumstantial weight to a voyage of exploration in the 1470s that supposedly penetrated far to the west. As you've seen, the arguments over whether Pining, Pothorst and the rest of the gang really reached America all rest on circumstantial evidence and interpretations of later sources, with no contemporary testimony yet found to back the story up. Modern scholars thus remain sceptical. They view the claim of a successful transatlantic crossing as unlikely, but not disproven. One major counter-argument for the group not reaching America is the rigid time constraints of the participants' activities elsewhere. One document shows Pothorst was in service on the warship Bastion until the 1st of July 1473, while Corte-Real was presumably back in Portugal in January 1474 to take on his new role as governor in the Azores. This 6-month window has been argued to be too short for a return trip to Newfoundland from Europe. Ultimately, archaeological evidence unearthed in the 1960s has confirmed that the true priority for European contact belongs to the Norse seafarers, such as Leif Erikson, who settled in Newfoundland around the year 1000. Both Pining and Pothorst achieved significant status through their service to the Danish crown. Pothorst in particular must have accumulated considerable wealth, evidenced by his coat of arms and his purported donation funding murals in St Mary's Church in Ellesmere around 1493. Pining's career also grew following the expedition, becoming the governor of Iceland for a time. Despite their elevated positions, their lives remained precarious as they remained active privateers. A later chronicle recounts that both men were among many pirates who met with a miserable death, being either slain by their friends, hanged on the gallows, or drowned in the waves of the sea. After Larsen published this radical theory in 1925, the discovery that the heroes were in fact German was only made a few years later. And so the narrative was formalized and absorbed into the public consciousness in both Portugal and Germany. For example, a street and a school were named after Didrik Pining in his hometown of Hildesheim. The wood carving of Pining and Pothorst meeting a Native American was also built into the Glockenspiel House in Bremen around 1934. So what do you think? Did Europeans reach America before Columbus? Maybe a forgotten dusty manuscript remains to be found in the Portuguese or Danish archives that will provide the final proof of this transatlantic discovery. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.